Hi guys, Olivia Hunt, Realtor with Realty One Group Sterling on Team Gold. Today I am going to be sharing another recipe from your realtor, and this month's recipe is an Irish soda bread. This recipe was actually surprisingly easy. I've always loved Irish soda bread but been a little bit too intimidated to try it out, but it ended up being a lot easier than I had anticipated. So first step, I'm going to be taking 4 cups of just regular all-purpose flour. And I'm gonna be sifting this through just to get out any of the lumps and chunks that might be in there. But yes, so starting with the 4 cups of all-purpose flour, you don't need any specialty bread flours or anything for this specific recipe, and it works out just fine. I'm gonna be sifting it into my stand mixer with the paddle attachment, but if you don't have a stand mixer, that's a-okay too. I would just do so into just a large mixing bowl, and then instead of using a paddle attachment or something, you'll be using different tools like a whisk and a wooden spoon throughout the recipe. Next, I'm going to be adding my salt. We're going to be using 2 teaspoons of salt. And now I will be taking 2 tablespoons of just regular granulated sugar, and then 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And we're just gonna mix that all together. Next step is to get your buttermilk prepared. If you have just regular buttermilk, you might as well go ahead and use that, or if you do the vinegar mixture in order to make buttermilk, that's fine too. I don't use milk often enough though to make it worth my while to have it in the house, so I actually use this buttermilk blend. It's a powder that you can mix with water in order to turn into buttermilk, and so I use that just because for me it's less wasteful and it's a lot easier, but everybody's a little different and it might add a little bit of a different flavor in order to make it maybe a little bit better. I don't know if you use regular buttermilk, but this way is just pretty easy and it's therefore what works best for me, so maybe give it a try. So this recipe calls for 1.5 cups of buttermilk though, so I'm just mixing that up with my buttermilk blend. You can get this just at the grocery store and it's super easy to mix together and make. I highly recommend using it just if you're like me and you're afraid of being wasteful if you don't use buttermilk enough. And then I'm cracking my 1 large egg into that mixture as well and just mixing that all together. And then I begin pouring my buttermilk egg mixture into the dry ingredients with the stand mixer going. Like I said, if you don't have a stand mixer, you can just be using a wooden spoon or a whisk, but this is when it's going to start get some body. And then as you can see here, I'm just using my wooden spoon to get some of that dough off of the paddle. And then I'll add in my dough hook in order to stir in the butter. I have melted butter here, just a 1/4 cup of that. And this is where the dough really starts to form and get a little bit heavy in the clumps. I've got my prepared cake pan here. I'm just using a copper pan just because that's the one that I had that was the correct size. And then I'm going to knead my dough just a little bit. The only reason I'm doing this is just enough to form the dough ball. You don't need to do it in excess by any means, but I just get enough of it kneaded in order for all of the dough to stick together and really form the shape that it needs to be. I'm now going to transfer my dough ball into the cake pan. So I just lift it out all in one big piece and kind of roll it together to that ball shape. And then I plop it down into my pan and just kind of pat it for good measure. Then I take a little bit more of melted butter and I just lightly brush it atop the top of the dough ball. I don't have one of those brush utensils anymore. I'm not really sure what happened to mine, so I'm just using my hands here. It's kind of messy, but it gets the job done. And then I take a knife and cut a sharp little X down the middle of my dough ball. And then in an oven that's preheated to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, I am sliding my dough ball in to bake. This will bake for 35 to 40 minutes or just until it's lightly golden. And at that time, I will pull it out of the oven. And it looks so delicious. I swear, you guys, it was super duper good and very, very easy. So let it cool for at least 20 minutes and then it's ready to slice and serve. I hope you guys try this out and enjoy.